Hi crafty friends, this is Fairy there, getting ready to show you guys all about how to make your own paper pad blocks. Or if you are a watercolorist or dabble in watercolor, you may be familiar with these products that are available from many different companies. I have here a Strathmore watercolor cold press block and a Canson Monteval cold press watercolor block, another Canson Moulin du Roi, which I was lucky enough to get at Tuesday morning for $14.99. It's regular $40.10, 20 pages. What these are essentially is watercolor paper, and you cannot pull it all up. This particular pad, I don't know if you can see it, right along there, where there is no glue holding all the pages together, is where after you've finished your page, you take a palette knife, slip it in, and cut the whole piece off. So I would just slip in my palette knife and go all the way around and remove my piece of paper, and after my watercolor is dried, everything is nice and flat. These tend to be a little pricey. This one is kind of old. You can tell I don't buy it very often, and then I hoard it because it was expensive and I don't want to use it up. So here's some Canson Watercolor XL that's 140 pounds, and it's a cold press, and I like this paper for practicing on and doing cards and different things like that. But it usually comes, here's a smaller size, and it just comes in pages. It's all glued at the top band, and you just go through and use it page by page and tear it off or use it from the book. But then you still have the problem, especially with paintings where you've used a lot of water, the paper's going to warp, and that really annoys me. I like my things to stay nice and flat. So here's a pad, a bigger one that I took, and I clamped it down with some old shelves that my husband cut down, and all of the edges are glued down except for one area where you can see my little stripe. That's to let me know that's where it's not glued, and that's where I can put my little palette knife in order to remove my painting. Here's one that I did on this pad and removed it, and it is really lovely and flat, not a whole lot of warping or wrinkling. I really like this result. So that's what you can achieve with this method. Now what I've got here already set up is some mixed media paper, because I really like that to lay flat as well, and once you start laying down some inks and some paints, they can get kind of crinkly and not so wonderful. So what I've done is I have two shelves here that I had my husband cut down to 18 inches. And I've covered one side and overlapped it on this side with some simple press and seal to help protect it from the glue and make it easier to get off once it's all dry. I used around the edge some Aleene's tacky glue. It comes in a nice bottle, and when you take it out, it is a really thick glue, and it's on a nice brush, which gives you control as you're going around the edges of this. So what I did, I lined up the paper the best I could so that it's all even on these two edges, and then I just took my glue and I ran it with the brush all along this edge and part of this edge, and then you can use either a old gift card or something like that to really mush it down, and then I removed the tape off of the shelf like so, just running it along the edge so that there's no more glue there. Or I just use my finger and push it in, and then you can use a baby wipe and run it along the edge to remove the excess glue. I usually glue my edges twice just to make sure that they're going to stay down and everything is nice and secure. Now this has been glued for about an hour, so it's really very dry and it's ready to go. Oh, and I have this clamp down with some of these. Very quick and easy to use, and right now they've been on sale at Michael's for half off for a little while. So now I'm ready to do this part or leave that open, and I've decided I'm going to leave this one little section right here open. That's where my palette knife is going to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little Sharpie and I'm just going to put a little stripe over there so I know that's the part where I can put my knife in and get all my paper loose. And we're going to undo this and move everything down and do this other edge that I don't have yet. So I'm just going to pop this off. It came off very easily. Boom. Pull this like so. Oh, by the way, I did not include the backer board this time because since it's spiral bound, it was harder to control the pages to keep them together. It was much easier just to separate all the paper from the back and front covers, put them all together and clamp them down to do this first section. But for the next part, I'm going to go ahead and put the backing down, flip this over, and this way I can have two of those edges done right away when I get it. And all I'm going to do is line it up pretty much with the edge of my board. You can stick it out just a little bit if you want. That makes it a little bit easier for that credit card method to go and get some of the glue off. So I'm just leaving a tiny edge all around, and then I'm going to place my other piece down that has my press and seal on it. Notice it goes all the way around the lip and to the other side to protect it and keep the glue mess to a minimum. Now I'm just going to lay this on here, another tiny edge on this side, and the same down here on this edge, and I'm just going to take my clamp and clamp things down. I really like that my shelves are a little bit bigger than my book. That gives me plenty of room to go at it with my glue and not worry about it too much. Since I already have some glue on this side, I am not too worried about it. But I'm going to give it a little bit of extra reinforcement in the middle, just as a sample. So I just brush the glue on. Mush it in with my finger a little bit. And then I'm going to go along and remove the excess that overlapped onto there. Clean myself up. Now I'm going to move this clamp over here and work on this end of the book. I'm just applying it kind of thickly all along the edge. I'm not too concerned about being real neat because I'm going to smooth it all out afterwards. And I'm just going to go as far as the board goes. I don't mind this little bit up here. It's still not glued because the spiral bound part of this pad is going to help hold that into the paper taunt for me. And I'm not going to have to worry about it. So now I'm just going to press in, kind of mushing the glue down to make sure it really gets a good adhesion with the paper. And then use my little card to go along, oops, to go along that edge and remove that little bit of glue. And then lift it up and do the other edge. And then I'm just going to put some of this around my thumb like so, so that I've got a real nice little thing to go along the edge with, and clean up that last bit of glue. Turn it over and do it again along the bottom. And there is a little ridge of glue, and I'm just going to smooth it out just barely. And now this just needs to dry for a little while. Probably 20 or 30 minutes will do it. I usually leave it for about an hour. So it's been about 45 minutes and my glue is dry to the touch, and so we're ready to move on to the next stage. If you'll remember, the first stage I didn't have the backer board attached to the paper. Everything in here was just the paper, and then I flipped the backboard on and put that on the pad so that it would be all glued together. So the last step is going to be to move the whole pad to the other end so that we can glue this side to the cardboard backing. It's important that it sticks down to the backing so that everything to the very end will lay flat to your very last project that you work on. So all I'm going to do is move it down, and I might go ahead and do this other little lip, make sure it's got plenty of glue on it too. So just get everything all clamped up and repeat the previous steps. So I'm just going to take my tacky thicky glue and make sure that I get along that bottom edge to make sure that my paper really stays securely on the backer board for the pad. I'm not going to worry about too much getting the whole thing because I think I did a pretty good job the first couple of times that I did it. And it's just kind of like insurance. So just give it a nice smoothing. Grab a paper, baby wipe to wipe everything up. And get this last edge. Remember, this side I had already sealed with glue, but it is not sealed down to the backer board. So that's the whole point of this. I'm just concentrating on getting my glue along the bottom edge that has that backer board on the pad. Make sure I get plenty on there because I want to make sure this is nice and stable when I go to use it. And we are ready for it to dry and see our final product. We'll be back. So I'm back. It's been about a half an hour and this glue is dry to the touch. So it's time to take this apart and see how this worked out. Notice that my board came off very easily because I have the press and seal on there, so it didn't stick to the veneer of my boards. And everything is stuck perfectly. There was a little bit of glue on the back, but that is not a problem. I now have a lay flat pad to use for my mixed media that I can be sure that my paper is going to lay flat every time that I use it. I think this is a good project to do when you want to use a lot of less expensive papers especially, and have your thing still look nice at the end and not be all wrinkled and feel like your paper choice may have made the mistake in your artwork. This just takes one layer of worry away from what you're going to get on your final results. Anyway, I hope that you can use this, and if you have been doing something like this or have any comments, I really would like to hear them down below. Please go ahead and comment and subscribe and tell me what you think of this, and if you have an alternative way to do this, I really would love to hear it. So everybody, thanks for joining me. Go make a mess and have fun. Bye!